gentlemen, it's that time of the year again. We're predicting the Johnston's Paint Trophy Under-23s, Premier League 2, Combined Counties, Olympics, Triple Jump. The Premier League is around the corner, okay? As you're watching this, it might be on the precipice of starting. And with that, it's time for me to pretend I'm on a Sky Sports pundit panel.
Cheers, Jeff.
Now, if we just stop it there and go in a little bit closer, I am predicting the Premier League, not the Championship. Because I predict the riot, probably, if I don't predict Luton Town to get promoted for Tommy Robinson. Or maybe just because I'm brown. It's pretty simple. We go through from bottom all the way to the top in your Premier League champions. I give my reasons as to why I think everyone's going to finish there, and you guys get annoyed in the comments section. Speaking of which, if you do go on to enjoy, feel free to slap a like on the video. And if you're excited for the new season 24-25 campaign, there'll be plenty more content coming on the channel, so make sure to subscribe as well. Let's jump into things though, and we've got to start at the bottom. I like the Championship, okay? But the gap between the Championship and the Premier League has just grown to an almost unsustainable level in recent times. We saw it last season with Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton looking like they were definitely going to go back down, and then very easily going back down straight away. And my team in 20th is the same again. We've got Southampton, okay, who got promoted, of course, through the playoffs. They won at Wembley, 1-0 victory for them. Now I'm going to be talking about the transfers, the ins and outs, how pre-season has gone, how the squad overall looks, other random info, managers changing or whatever. And in terms of transfers, I don't really mind Southampton's. Harwood Bellis, of course, was with them on loan last season in the Championship. He's joined permanently. Brereton Diaz looked sick when he came in for Sheffield United in the second half of last season. Charlie Taylor was good for Burnley in the Prem. Nathan Woods, a good young centre-back from Swansea. Sugawara, a right-back who's coming from AZ Alkmaar. Really good attacking wing-back who's done well in the Eredivisie in terms of his output. Then Adam Lallana for pretty much PR purposes. But really, you still look at the top quality players, relatively speaking, in the Southampton squad, and it's just not massively inspiring. It's Kyle Walker-Peters, it's Alcaraz, now that he's back from his loan at Juve, if he decides to stay. Adam Armstrong got 21 goals in the Championship last season, but he gives me that vibe of a player, yeah. He needs there to be a Premier League 0.5. That needs to be made for him. I don't think he's good enough, really, for the Premier League to get them out of trouble on his own, and I think he's, like, slightly too good for the Championship. I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think they'll give a decent account of themselves, probably better than Sheffield United did for sure last season. I mean, it can't really get much worse. But yeah, I do think, unfortunately, they will be bottom of the pile. And 19th, just above them, a team that came up with them, Leicester City. Now, this is probably going to surprise people who, I don't know, maybe didn't watch the Championship last season, or don't really know, like, necessarily what's going on, like, in depth at Leicester. But they're probably going to get a points deduction this season, and they've lost their manager. Enzo Maresca's obviously gone to Chelsea. He was quite instrumental in how they played last season, the style that they played. Also, they almost bottled a 17-point lead in the second half of the season. I've found when I've done these predictions that momentum at the end of a season does actually carry through a little bit into the next season. And yeah, sure, they won the league in the end, but it was basically because everyone else kind of fell away around them. They were bad for like a whole second half of the season. They're not quite in disarray, but I don't know, the feeling around the club, given they just won the Championship, doesn't really feel like as good as it should be. Iheanacho's gone. Kieran Dewsbury Hall is gone as well, who was instrumental last season. He's gone with Maresca to Chelsea. And if Patson Daka is their main striker for next season, they're scoring 4 goals maximum across the whole campaign. He'll be like blocking set piece goals from corners, like offside at the back post. Fatawu, the Ghanaian winger, is a sick deal permanently because he was on loan last season. The centre back from Atalanta they got seems all right. Bobby Nicol-Overeed, experience, always turns up with important goals when he did for Fulham. And they've also still just got good legacy players from when they were in the Prem before, like a Ricardo Pereira, James Justin, Wilfred Ndidi still there technically. Steffi Mavadidi's a baller. Harry Winks as well in the centre of the park. So there are good players there, and I would have put them higher if it wasn't for what is probably a points deduction, maybe even 2 this season. And in 18th, rounding out the relegation places, yeah, look, there's a reason I apologise to the Championship at the start to get me. We need to start, like, crowdfunding the Championship, in my opinion. I reckon we set up, like, a GoFundMe for teams that, when they get promoted from the Championship, they just get... No, they already get a lot of money, actually, because of the TV rights. The gap's too much, it's in my opinion. And I don't even think the quality of the teams that have been promoted is that bad. Last year, it was a shocker. Burnley were good, but then they didn't sign any experienced players. Obviously, there were Centurions last season, so they absolutely ripped the Championship apart, but Sheffield United were in like administration at one point and got promoted. Luton Town squad was obviously not Premier League quality, whereas this season you could argue that Leicester and Southampton are stronger than both of those final two teams. And at the end of the day, Ipswich, who I'm going to put 18th here, were only 1 point off Leicester, with a side that you wouldn't expect to get promoted even necessarily. First team to get back-to-back promotions to the Premier League since, I want to say 2010. It was Southampton, were the last team to do it when they had like Lallana the first time and Morgan Schneiderlin and stuff. Kieran McKenna is a great manager. He's done an amazing job. The players have as well. People like Connor Chaplin, Sam Morsey, Leif Davis at left back is an absolute baller. He's probably going to be their main man, I would say, in terms of just overall quality. Getting Amari Hutchinson in permanently is quality. He was one of their standout performers last season going forward. Also brought in Liam Delap from Man City. But again, not a crazy amount of experience for really anyone in the team. They brought in Muric, who was really good actually when he came in for Burnley in the second half of last season. They might have even stayed up if he'd have actually played the entire campaign because he was really good. He was probably better than James Trafford, so that's a good signing. They definitely need more quality defensively, in my opinion, but fuck it, vibes. Do you know what I mean? They are just Luton in it. They're just the Luton of this crop of promoted teams. Not to the same degree, you know, their pitch isn't a conservatory, for example. Like, there wasn't much of an expectation of them getting promoted last season, but the unity, the togetherness, the general energy of the team might bring them forward, might take them through, but they also do have a really hard start to the season, so if that does get them demoralised, if they struggle against Liverpool and Man City, then they may struggle throughout the course of the season. If they get a win against all odds against ourselves or against Man City, then that could really spur them on to be engaged and maybe even stay up, potentially. 17th place, this might be a surprising one for people, actually, given how impressed I actually was with them last season, and that's Everton. And I am going to explain. We're in a Liverpool shirt, innit? So, hear me out, listen, before you boo. There's a thought process behind the madness, okay? Because I'm looking at their team, all right, and there's some good players in there, right? I don't even mind the signings that they've made either. Njai, O'Brien, that massive gangly centre-back from Lyon.
Look at the size of that fucker.
Good, all right. Pickford, Tarkovsky, great last season. James Garner, I thought was really good. But James Garner in midfield has now been deserted by Amadou Onana, who's gone to Aston Villa. And I'm telling you now, lads, when you look at the depth of this Everton squad, yeah, it is a shit show. These lot are one injury crisis away from #Harry playing in the centre of the park. I'm telling you right now, it's a serious situation. Their centre mid options are Abdoulaye Doucouré, James Garner, who I mentioned, who I'm quite impressed with, and then a 34-year-old Idrissa Gueye. Done. Kalas. That's not good enough. Wide areas, no depth again. I mean, Njai, I guess, can play out there as well now, but you just literally got McNeil and Harrison outside of him. They have to be active in the transfer window between now and the end of it, and another points deduction is lurking over them as well. But at the same time, I do have faith in Sean Dyche. I thought he performed over the odds for them to be like 14 points clear of relegation last season, given all the points deductions they had then. Everton fans, if you're getting angry in the comments section right now, don't worry, yeah, because Fulham fans are about to join you. JCC is about to call me out on the club. Genuinely speaking, I have put Fulham in 16th. Again, were decent, middle of the pack last season, no real issues, never looked like they were going to get relegated. I'm not even necessarily saying they're going to be in a relegation battle here, but I don't like their team, guys. And I don't know if it's personal, because they survived relatively okay without Mitrovic, but I just still don't rate their striking options that much. Muniz kind of proved me wrong a little bit with a nice purple patch in the second half of the season, but Raul Jimenez just doesn't do it for me, to be honest. They got Jay Stansfield back, who was impressive for Birmingham last season, so maybe he can break into the first team. They've got a 36-year-old Willian. How much longer can he really put out decent numbers for them? In has come Ryan Sessegnon, who will be all right for them, and Emile Smith-Rowe, who in fairness has been really good in pre-season, really sharp, and just is a top quality player. That's a great pickup for a team like Fulham. He will excel for them. He's going to be great, but they have lost Joao Palhinha, and this is the biggest thing, to Bayern Munich, who has been back-to-back seasons one of the most impressive centre mids in the entire league, statistically, and has easily been their best player. He's gone. They haven't replaced him yet. Palhinha could do everything. He could shoot from distance. He was great defensively. He was a good playmaker. He could just have the game ticking over. A complete all-rounder. They're not going to find another player like him at that quality, and I think they're going to struggle because of that, to be honest with you. We'll speed run the next few, because we're into the mid-table now. 15th, I've got Brentford. They're West London rivals. Brentford kind of disappointed me last season, really. Struggled. Thomas Frank didn't get the most out of them, but obviously Ivan Toney was out for half the season. If they keep hold of him for a full season, then I think they could finish higher than 15th, obviously. But I'm kind of working under the pretense that they might lose him, to be honest with you. And the man that they brought in to replace him, Igor Thiago, for like £25 million, has immediately died. Not actually, but he's just collapsed his knee straight off the bat. He walked into the training complex for the photo shoot, fell down the stairs. He's done his ACL in the sprinter on the way to the ground. So he's out. He's out for time. You're not going to see him for ages. So they are reliant, really, unless they go out and buy another striker, on Ivan Toney actually staying till at least January. Because if they lose him and his goals, they're in trouble. I like Wissa, I like Mbeumo, but they're better wide men, really, than goal getters consistently. And even if they do keep Ivan Toney, they got to keep him off his Bet365 app. He's going to be devastated when he checks the odds and realizes he has to bet on Brentford going down. No Mopay, he's gone back now. Same for the Guillons. They need a new left back and a new source of shithousery. Yeah, overall, I think they might struggle, but defensively, I like them, and their wing backs are quality. So, yeah, mid-table probably. 14th place, I've gone for Nottingham Forest. Hopefully for them, for their sakes, no more points deductions that I think really hurt them quite a lot last season. Kind of really the only reason they were actually in a relegation battle at all going into the final month of the season. But even then, they did a good enough job under Nuno. I think the likes of Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White, Awoniyi, who was obviously injured for a while, but he's class, Murillo, and also Hudson-Odoi is just enough off the bat to stay up, really, with the talent around them and below them. Lost a lot of people, though. Reina and Montiel have gone back after their loans. They've also lost Niakate and Mangala in terms of defensive options, which isn't ideal for them. Mixed pre-season, but again, having a goal-getter like Taiwo Awoniyi will be probably helpful for them. And just above them, I've gone for Wolverhampton Wanderers in 13th place. I'll say it quietly, yeah, but I am a little bit worried about Wolves. They could finish lower than this, I'm not gonna lie. The only thing about them is that I do like their overall squad, but again, they're having a bad transfer window, just like they were at this time last year. Last year, though, they managed to recover it after I made the video, so I'm kind of hoping that they will do that again. Tommy Doyle in permanently is good, but they have just lost Pedro Neto. Saying that, he spends 80% of the season out injured anyway. So last season, they were relying on Hwang and Cunha. Can they do it again? Don't know. I'm never really too sold on those two. I think they do need another attacking option, really. Well, a number 9 as well, actually. Just a consistent goal getter would be good. And then Cunha and Hwang alongside that. They tend to play a 3 at the back, and they've run out of centre-backs now they've sold Max Kilman. So unless they're expecting Craig Dawson to come back, aged 57, I don't know what they're going to do here. Totti, I like, but Semedo at centre-back makes me want to top myself, and I don't even have any correlation to Wolves at all. And they did end the season pretty badly as well. It felt like they were 10th for a lot of the campaign, and then ended up finishing 14th out of nowhere. You know what? Fuck it. I'm putting them below Nottingham Forest, actually. Changing things on the go. I'm definitely not drinking whilst that's... E12 prime mid-table football. We are going with the Cherries. We're going with Bournemouth. They lost Solanke. That's like the main issue. Dominic Solanke, if you don't know, somehow has gone Tottenham for 65 mil. We'll talk about him a little bit more like later when we get to Tottenham. But for Bournemouth, that's 19 goals across a 38-game season. That's an incredible tally to end up with. Okay, so they are really going to have to replace his goals somewhere. And I feel like it's maybe caught them off guard a little bit because they haven't actually brought in a replacement, obviously, yet to start the season. They've got good wide players like Sinistera, Tavernier. I like Semenyo as well. Kirkesh at left back's a baller. Billingham Cook are good. I like Alex Scott. Good players across the board. Dean Howson is a good young centre-back they've just brought in from Juventus. So their recruitment's been good. I trust them to bring in a good striker to replace Solanke, but as of right now, they're missing a lot of firepower, obviously. So they need to bring in someone there. They did end well till their final 3 games of last season, and their pre-season's been okay, like what you'd probably expect. So I've got them in P12 just behind Brighton and Hove Albion as well. I've not forgotten about Hove yet. They've mostly signed youngsters, so expect them, whoever they are, to sign for Chelsea for £138 million in 2 years. In the here and now, though, Yakuba Minte, they've just brought in from Newcastle permanently. He looked good for Feyenoord on loan last season, helped them win the Eredivisie, so he's gonna be a good footballer for them. Obviously, they've got the usual Edingra, Evan Ferguson, Joao Pedro. Julio Enciso will be back fit after spending out a lot of last season out injured. Estupinian, the likes of Lewis Dunk as usual at the back. But they ended last season horribly, and they've obviously lost De Zerbi as well. So that might have been needed, actually. They might have needed a little refresh, maybe. They might have slumped even more, potentially, at the start of this season if De Zerbi was still there. He's obviously gone to Marseille. They brought in a guy who looks like he's got a Lego piece hair cut, like, attached to the top of his head, and he's like 26. So I don't really trust that, to be honest with you. If I was in the same school as this guy when I was in year 7, I don't know about that as a manager. He's going to be managing people older than him. That that can't be a healthy environment to be working in. But either way, he's got a good record. He was good. I think at St. Pauli, he got St. Pauli promoted from the Bundesliga 2 last season. So looks like a decent manager. The most Brighton appointment ever. Hipsters. And yeah, for me, 11th place. Just behind their A-Road related rivals, Crystal Palace, who were the complete opposite really of Brighton last season by ending the campaign ridiculously. Oli Glasner had Mateta playing like prime R9. Obviously, Eze was balling. Michael Elise has now left. He's gone to Bayern Munich, which is a big loss for them. But they've kind of already replaced him in terms of positionally. Ismail Assar, who used to be at Watford, who I have severe PTSD about, is back in the Premier League after a time away in France. So I think he'll do well. It's the most Crystal Palace signing like ever. And Daichi Kamada, a nice creative midfielder as well from Japan, who's come over from the Bundesliga, is a good signing for Crystal Palace too. I really like both of those. And they got the usual suspects like Tyrick Mitchell, who's pretty good. Czech Nukore's back. Adam Wharton is a baller. The only like question mark for them is that Newcastle are heavily linked with Mark Gahey after his performances for England at the Euros. Arguably one of our best players, if not our best player. So losing him would be massive because his combination with Joachim Anderson's been crazy. If they can keep him, honestly, I genuinely think they can make a charge for Europe in terms of going to the final days of the season with a chance of like Conference League. And now we get to the heavy hitters, okay? And we're going controversial again. I want engagement. No, I'm kidding. This is genuinely what I believe. I'm not even doing this for the foolishness, okay? I'm here to defend my crown, yeah? The Mini Minter crown from last season, okay? For all the people that said I don't have ball knowledge, listen to this. The best predictor in the scene is going out the window because I'm predicting Chelsea to finish 9th. Look, lads, guys, what are you even doing over there? We need like an actual documentary into the life and times of being any employee at Chelsea Football Club. From the dinner ladies to the board members to the players, I need an in-depth investigation, panorama style, into them all. Because what is going on over there? Signings-wise, look, they brought in Pedro Neto. I mean, where do we even start, actually? If I run through all the signings, we'd be here till next Wednesday. And that's if you put the video into 2x speed. And I don't really want you to have to sit through like 38 different mid-rolls. You know what it is? I think Todd Bowley, yeah, he's obviously American. He still thinks this is American football. He thinks he needs like an NFL roster. That's why he's got 54 players according to their Wikipedia page. Fuck knows what the squad's gonna be. All I know is they're gonna try and put 8 goalkeepers out at the same time. A game against Chelsea is gonna look like no other next season, honestly. The main out, one of them at least, I guess, is Thiago Silva, who we knew was gonna leave anyway. He'd announced that he was gonna leave the club at the end of his contract. He's gone back to Brazil. That's a massive loss in terms of just like an experienced head. The mentality that Thiago Silva has, it's also a loss for our social media content because his wife was just on smoke every single time anything happened at all. Conor Gallagher could also be leaving, who was actually pretty important really to Chelsea's midfield last season, but obviously they've still got Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, who was looking good at the end of last season as well. And then in the ins, we've got what, Tosin Adara-Bioyo from Fulham, Pedro Neto's coming from Wolves, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall's more of like a backup option probably, then Joao Felix could be coming in. They missed out on the guy from Atletico, but they still want Victor Osimhen. It's like a squad and ultimate team, but with negative chemistry. That's what's going on here at the moment. Even like Wesley Fofana's a new signing again because he's been out injured for 2 years. Don't know how that combination's going to go with Enzo Fernandez though. And of course, Enzo Maresca is their new manager. So there's a change in system there. There's a change in approach. With Maurizio Pochettino leaving at the end of last season. And speaking of Poch, he got them playing really well. They won the last 5 games of the season, boosted their way all the way up into P6. That was massive, but then he's gone. So it's just shaking up the whole thing again. Cole Palmer will be important. Raheem Sterling might be leaving. It's a mess. Reece James is injured again. Lavia's back. He'll probably get injured again. Nkunku's fit. There's just so many question marks. Honestly, fuck knows where they're going to finish. They're actually impossible to predict because the starting 11 that they could choose on a day-to-day basis will completely change based on the weather that morning. So until we have any sort of actual clarity on what the starting 11 is going to look like consistently, it's going to be really difficult to tell how they're going to do. For me, I'm saying disastrous season again. The team I've got in 8th, though, is a big contrast, and it's West Ham, who I think have had a really, really good summer. And I know it's a bit of a, it's the in thing to say they've had a good transfer window, but they just have, like, objectively. Crescencio Somerville was the best player in the Championship last season in terms of just overall ability. Maybe there were other people that deserved to win Championship Player of the Season based on the teams they were playing for, but he was the best player in the league. Crescencio Somerville is a baller, and he has the maddest name of any footballer I've ever heard in my life, so that's extra points. Max Kilman, solid enough centre-back. I think him, alongside also Jean-Claire Todibo, who's coming from France. That's a really good centre-back partnership alongside Aguerd. You've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's a great, solid defensive right-back option for a team like West Ham. And then creme de la creme, yeah, Nicholas Fulkrug. This guy just took Dortmund to a Champions League final. And now he's in East London. Nobody needs to be in East London. It's crazy. And he looks like a West Ham striker as well. He fits the bill, like, tactically, yeah, but he's missing a tooth at the front. He's massive. He's just he's built like a shed. He speaks to the ethos of the football club, and I think he'll do really well. I think if he doesn't do well at West Ham, then no striker's ever going to do well. You know, it's a massive upgrade on Antonio. Midfield-wise, they're going to look cold, obviously, with Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, and Paqueta. Wide options are Bowen, Kudus, and Somerville. That's insane. With Fulkrug up top. I mean, if they bring in even a couple more depth options, maybe in the wing-back areas, then they're golden. Areola was sick last season as well, and his name is just outrageous, really. So yeah, I think West Ham are gonna have a good season. Obviously, I predicted them 8th here, which is still outside of Europe, but I think that's more testament to how many teams can finish in Europe these days, really. If this was like 4 years ago and West Ham had just had this level of transfer window, I'd say they could be competing for Champions League, but there's so many good teams in this division now, it's so hard to break into the top 7. And speaking of which, at the bottom of the top 7, we have got Aston Villa. I don't think Villa have had as good a transfer window as they could have done, to be honest with you. They've obviously lost a couple big players too. That's really the main thing. Douglas Luiz, who was in, like, so important for them last season. He's a penalty merchant, he's an Instagram girlfriend merchant, but he's also a good footballer, and he's gone to Juventus now. So that's a big miss. Amadou Onana has come in to replace him. He will be a baller. He's enough of a same shape to fill the hole. Pause. So he's in, but then again, they've also lost Moussa Diaby, who, although Leon Bailey maybe outshone him at times, I don't know whether Leon Bailey can keep up that level of form that he had last season, so they're going to need to replace Diaby too. But then on the ins, in fairness, there have been a couple of good signings. Illing Jr., kind of like a depth option, but an Ian Martson at left back, again, in a Champions League final with Borussia Dortmund in the summer. You know, he's a crazy option and a young player as well who's going to grow with the side. I think that's a great signing. Ross Barkley's a bargain. Sean at Luton hopefully can continue that regain of, like, form that he kind of lost after the Everton days. Defensively, Mings coming back, Konza, you've got Diego Carlos, Pau Torres, that's 6 centre-back options. They maybe need a little bit more quality out wide. I like Morgan Rogers a lot, and then they probably need a backup striker if John Duran is going to go to West Ham. I don't know if that's actually still happening, though. And Ollie Watkins is, of course, a baller. Like, Ollie Watkins is sick. They've got a great team, like, already. They didn't need to do a crazy amount in the transfer window, but I think the only thing that might hurt them a little bit is that Champions League run that they're going to have to balance as well. It's going to be tough. And I know sometimes saying, oh yeah, playing on a Thursday in the Europa League is overrated a little bit in terms of deciding how a team's going to do. But a team like Aston Villa having to do a Champions League run as well is going to stretch them in certain areas. I think especially in midfield and out wide. So yeah, that's something they're going to have to balance. They were calm at balancing with Europe last season, obviously. You can't put the under-23s out against Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid, do you know what I'm saying? In 6th place, I have gone for Newcastle United. Horror transfer window. Again, kind of a team that doesn't need to do a crazy amount, but looking at the rest of the teams around them, they've done nothing. I don't know if they're like trying to balance the books, like try and like fool the tax man, like not have HMRC come and knock in, because they've kind of signed players like it's 2016 again. Like what? John Ruddy, a backup Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, a striker from Sheffield United that wasn't even getting any game time. It's a bit of a confusing strategy so far. They've not really brought in anyone that I think is going to improve the team, but they've got a good squad anyway. The likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Isaac, Gordon, Tonali's back from his betting ban as long as he doesn't meet up with Ivan Toney at any point this season. They've got good depth as well and also no European football to distract them, so I think that might help them. And if they bring in Mark Gahey, again, that'll be a sick combination with Sven Botman when he's back from his injury. 5th place, I've gone for Manchester United. You lot are lucky that I've even given you this niceness, okay? Seeing people getting angry on Twitter that people are predicting them to finish 5th. You finished 8th last season, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, we're doing you a service putting you 3 places up. Now, you know what? Genuinely, I actually like some of Manchester United's business. They overpaid and are overspending on Lenny Euro. They couldn't help the fact that he got injured. That's just unlucky. For an 18-year-old centre-back, they are paying him a lot of wages. Not that it's any of our money or anything. He's going to be great in the future, though, so it might be worth it. But Matthijs de Ligt is a great value for money signing. Natural-born leader, solid enough centre-back. Him and Euro as a combination, or him and, obviously, Lisandro Martinez, it'll probably be, as a combo, is class. Unless Lisandro is going to play out on the left when Luke Shaw inevitably gets his 7th hamstring injury of the season. No Højlund is going to make the start of the season a little bit tougher, but Joshua Zirkzee is in from Bologna. He looked good. Not really a natural goal scorer, though, to be honest with you. Then, in terms of like the outs, obviously you lost Rafael Varane, but the main one, the one that's really going to hurt the Red Devils this season, I can't lie, and I don't know how they're going to replicate his actual importance to the team. Tom Huddleston. Yeah, now Malassi is still dead as well, by the way. He's injured. Andre Onana's showing teams how to score past him. It's a mixed bag over at Manchester United right now. I don't know even if Erik ten Hag's the right guy for the job. They didn't want to give him a new contract, and then he went and won the FA Cup, so they kind of had to. It's a lot to unpack, really, at Manchester United, to be honest with you. It's going to be a bit of a mystery. Casemiro, the football's already left him, so I don't know where he stands in all of this. But Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes in the midfield will, I'm sure, be impressive. Kobbie now going into his first full season as a United regular, I guess. He is just the truth, isn't he? He's fucking nuts. Overall, I'm balancing him out as being in the Champions League hunt for sure, but just falling short maybe. And it might come to you as a bit of a surprise, actually, I'm putting fourth. It's Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta throw, like, logic to the wind in videos like this. The football doesn't follow, like, actual method or facts, really ever. Random things happen all the time, all right? So sometimes you just gotta look at your predictions and mash them up a little bit. And so I've gone for Tottenham in fourth. I thought they were pretty good last season, and Postecoglou got them playing well. I think the addition of Dominic Solanke, as well as a natural goal scorer, will be helpful down the middle. I hope for his sake, and I guess for their sake, that he does perform well. Heung-min Son can return probably to his best position, and then you've got him, Brennan Johnson, and James Maddison creating chances for Solanke, who scored 19 for Bournemouth. Theoretically speaking, with more opportunities and more chances at his disposal at a better team, he should at least replicate that. Archie Gray is going to be a baller, but I don't think he'll start immediately. Lucas Bergvall, again, a Swedish little wonder kid, so they're planning for the future too, which is good. But the thing I really like about Tottenham actually is just their whole back five. I really like Tottenham's back five. It's got balance, erratic at times, but it's got a bit of balance. Like Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie, don't really know what you're gonna get sometimes in terms of intelligence, but they are good, solid wing backs for the level. The centre back partnership slaps. Van der Veen and Romero are class, and then Vicario was quality in his first season last year. He's only gonna get better as a relatively young goalkeeper. Then, as I said, you've got people like Sarr and Bentancur kind of coming back, hopefully for them for full fitness. They've lost Højbjerg, bit of a leader, but wasn't really necessarily starting every game anyway. As I mentioned, Maddison too. Maybe some quality at centre mid wouldn't go amiss, like a little bit more. But overall, I don't mind their team, and I think Ange is a good manager. I'm saying Champions League for them. Fuck it. They're back on the big stage. Into the top three now. It's the business end of proceedings. And ladies and gentlemen, it is with regret I am going to have to put Liverpool here. I know. I want to be biased. Trust me, guys, I do. I want to say things that don't make sense and do things that don't make sense on a regular basis. However, as much as I was foolish maybe with the last pick, I have to use my brain for this one. I would love Liverpool once again to be involved in a title battle. I just don't think we're going to be there. I think it's going to be a slight transitional season just because Arne Slot is a new manager with a very, very different ethos to Jurgen Klopp. We're going to play very different football. We're playing really nice football in pre-season, but it's still going to take a little bit of getting used to. There's a lot of off-the-pitch stuff as well that needs sorting, like Trent's going into the final year of his contract, Van Dijk needs a new deal, Mo Salah needs a new deal. We're kind of chopping and changing in terms of there's players leaving here and there. We've lost Matip and Thiago Alcantara. The medical staff are joyous at this revelation. I think the main gap really that I'd want us to plug a little bit is maybe a more consistent goal scorer, because anytime I see Diaz or Darwin Núñez in on goal, I fear the worst. I really do, guys. I'm not gonna lie. If Diogo Jota can stay fit, that'll be helpful, but there's just so many options up front, and they all level each other out. They have different strengths and weaknesses. Got Gakpo had a really good Euros, to be fair. Hopefully we actually play him in his position and he might perform. Might be a new man. Obviously Salah is a baller. Darwin, fuck knows. The main problem though is at DM. It wasn't sorted last season, or just a central midfielder generally speaking. Zubimendi would have been perfect. I am wholeheartedly depressed that we're not getting him. That would have been perfection. So we need to go out and find either a midfield orchestrator from deep or just a defensive midfielder outright. Because I like Endo, great guy. I'm sure he's a good father or something, but he's not quite the DM that we need, to be honest with you. And Bajcetic is still a young kid. Bajcetic, if he stays fit, could become the DM that we need. So if we're willing to be patient, I wouldn't mind. I think if we go into the season playing Endo, I'll be a bit frustrated. I'd rather Bajcetic just play. If we're not going to sign a DM, just develop him, and I think he has the potential to become that guy. It's just not going to be for this season. And as I mentioned, we wanted to bring in Zubimendi. Doesn't look like it's happening. We haven't signed anybody. No signings at all. And we've got rid of a few depth options. So I'm not enjoying it. I'm hoping we bring in a couple of players between now and the end of the season, but I think we're pretty stonewall third right now in my mind. Which leaves us with the final two. We're here again. It's the same as last season. We have two teams left over, all right, that we now must assimilate into an order. And it's first and second, just in case you didn't know that one. And it's Man City and Arsenal, obviously, who are the two teams who duked it out for the Premier League title last season. Arsenal missed out by 2 points. And lads, I'm gonna be so unbelievably real. They're gonna miss out again. Guys, I wanted to. I really did. I really wanted to put Arsenal as title winners. I can't even lie. Not for the fan base. The fan base on Twitter is annoying as hell. I actually want them to endure pain and suffering. The Twitter accounts that are Arsenal fans, generally speaking, a lot of them are really annoying. But just for the pure sake of the storyline and the plot of the overall Premier League as a whole, it would be enjoyable if someone other than Manchester City won the league. But I just can't get over one glaring issue, okay? Defensively, they've strengthened again. Calafiori's great. I don't like this 4 centre-back partnership situation. Mikel Arteta might have been involved in the riots in England. That's all I'm saying. Because it's Brexit football. I don't know. I don't care how you want to sugarcoat it. 4 centre-backs as your back 4 is crazy behaviour in this economy.
4, 4, fucking 2.
They got defensive depth, okay? They've got midfield depth, all right? But they still have not addressed the striker situation. Guys, I can't do this, okay? We're not doing Kai Havertz up front again. We're not doing Gabriel Jesus up front again. Arteta will be left furious with this Brazilian geezer by game week 6 when he misses his third one-on-one in the first 25 minutes. There just still isn't that firepower, and I know it sounds stupid because it's not even like they were bad attacking-wise last season. You know, Saka, Martinelli, even Leandro Trossard, good goal contributions, okay? But there have been times I've been watching them and I'm like, if you just had a clinical one-in-one finisher like an Ollie Watkins, if Ollie Watkins had played for Arsenal last season, they would have won the league. It's as simple as that, and I won't hear anything otherwise. They still haven't addressed it, so therefore I can't predict them to finish first. You know, until they actually deal with that situation, it's not going to happen. It reminds me of when Liverpool were fighting for titles like in the 2013-14 times, and we still had Mamadou Sakho at the back. Just buy a good centre-back, you won't concede as many goals. It still annoys me to this day. But either way, that does of course leave us with a title winner by proxy, and that's Manchester City again. Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't want to have to do it. I don't even think they've been that good in the transfer market either. They've had a so-so pre-season, but they are just the best team, and they've just got the best manager, and they've just got the best striker. Rodri's a madman. Haaland will score for fun. Kevin De Bruyne is still there, man. Like, what are we supposed to do? Their defensive options piss me off. Akanji, Ake, Stones, Diaz, Walker, Cavadio. What are we doing here? How are we even supposed to compete with that? They brought in Savio, who looked sick for Girona last season. Young, flair-filled option again to add to even more like Doku, Grealish, Foden. Julian Alvarez, though, of course, has left. So if Haaland gets injured and they don't actually bring in a replacement for Alvarez as a backup, because if they don't have anyone behind Haaland, with his knees, yeah, they haven't gone yet in the Premier League, but it's overdue, okay? Those cream cracker legs they're gonna fall apart at some point just for 2 months. And if they don't have a suitable backup behind him, they could well be in trouble. They just unlock something. Man City will lose to Forest in November, and then they'll go 42 games unbeaten out of the final 19 games in the second half of the campaign. And then what can we do? You can't overcome that. So I am going to say Manchester City as my Premier League title winners. That is my Premier League predictions, okay? Arsenal, Liverpool, and then Tottenham joining them in the Champions League. I've gone for United, Newcastle, and Aston Villa getting themselves Europe. Down towards the bottom, though, it's the 3 promoted teams going straight back down. I didn't want to have to do it. I can't listen to my heart every time. Sometimes I've got to use my brain in this life, occasionally. But what do you think, guys? If you support a Premier League side, let me know how your team is going to do down in the comment section. If there's anything you agree with or disagree with, anything I've left out, then drop that down there too. Feel free to have violent arguments amongst yourselves. But if you did enjoy this video, even with the ball knowledge, then feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.